Saturday afternoon, the 30th of August 2025. It's been very wet. We have a sort of a storm, wet and windy, and I'm here in the workshop doing a few jobs, and I just have the phone set up on the top slide that I have for the lathe, and just decided to take a break and make a wee video and let you know what's going on, more or less. Now, one of the things that I often deal with is finance, and in the internet and in a lot of news at the moment is a warning that we could be in for rocky times ahead with finance in the world. Now, Jamie Dimon is the chairman of Goldman Sachs, and that's a very substantial bank in the United States, all over the world. And when he speaks, we have to listen to him. Now, people say, oh, sure, he's just a big nose banker. Well, I don't altogether agree. His job is banking and how it works. And I've went to a bit of trouble to explain banking, and I might do more on that. I have a book, don't have it here, and we can go on that. But anyway, he's issued a warning several times that there are problems. Now, I want to just explain to you, money is a store of value. People have to trust it, and it's a store of value. Gold is the classic example, and silver. And they're sound so long as somebody doesn't uncover a massive gold mine somewhere and millions of tons of gold. That would deflate and take away the value of the gold or silver, etc. During the Spanish Conquistadores, when they conquered Mexico and South America, they found a lot of gold by the Incas and other people there, and they stole it and brought it back to Spain. And instead of it boosting the economy of Europe, it actually damaged it, because gold became kind of worthless for a long time. So if you had gold already and you had, let's say, 10 euros in gold, for the sake of argument, suddenly it would only buy 2 euros worth of value, because there was so much of it floating around. It just came out of the blue. It took it a while to recover. Eventually it seeped down through the system. Now, the way the gold is gone, we're now fiat currencies, government-backed currencies, based on debt, which may puzzle you. We'll not go into it here. Now, the way government is financed is by borrowing on what's called the bond market. And in the UK, guaranteed government debts and treasuries are sometimes called gilts. It's something to do with the gilding on the bond. The bond is a piece of paper with coupons down the side. Now, you lend to the government at a certain rate of interest for a certain number of years. Could be 2, could be 3, could be 5, could be 10. And it can be up to 30, usually no longer than 30. You lend to the stated time, and they do not refund your money until that time is up. But what they do every year is they pay the interest. I saw comments there on certain videos, nothing to do with me, which don't understand that. The coupon must be paid every year. The same as if you had a loan out, you have to pay the interest. Now, it's not left till the end, because it's a huge sum. So, the question then would happen, what would happen if you had a country run by a king, a very wise king? He might borrow very little. He might decide, I'm not going to borrow an awful lot of stuff. There's an awful glare on that window, isn't there? I've turned it a bit there to try and get the glare off it. I'm not going to borrow much. I'm going to do my own thing. The problem there is he might want a bit of money to purchase a great bargain for fertilizer for his farmers or something, or some bit of a lending or housing or something, and he might borrow a little. But if he was prudent, he'd only borrow a little. And that isn't a real problem. If he borrows nothing, as happens in some of the big communist states long ago, you have poverty by the people, because there's no pool of money there to draw on. Okay, but he might only borrow a bit, and nobody knows a thing, and he pays back when the time is up. Now, that will not work in a democracy, because in a democracy, if you have little or no borrowing, the one party will work for election, and they'll say we'll keep it like that, and the other one will promise the earth, moon and stars by borrowing. They'll say we have no problem borrowing, there's guaranteed we can borrow X, Y, and Z from the markets, and that is true. And the markets will lend and lend and lend until the whole thing crashes. So, do you understand the point? In democracies, you have auction politics. The people are mainly idiots. The idea of them saving up a little bit doesn't matter. They do actually sell their own children and grandchildren by borrowing for their goodies now so that they can have their goodies now and throw it on the people who come after. That's how selfish people are. The result is the way the world is financed is the government issues a bond, asks for money. The investors with money, like big pension funds, private people, anyone with money, can buy into it. There used to be prize bonds long ago in Ireland, and there used to be post office savings which were invested in government bonds. You could save in the post office, and that was bonds. Okay, most people didn't know what was happening. Now, so that's all right. So, provided it's kept at a reasonable level, it actually is helpful because pension funds need a little bit of income. So, in effect, the pension of someone who retires out of, we'll say, Goodman International, Kingspan, Gypsum Industries, Diageo, is paid for by the taxpayer because the money is loaned to the government who pay at interest, but that interest comes from the taxpayer. So essentially the taxpayer pays for mostly everything. Do you understand that now? Now, the fault of the system is that government is regarded as sure money, safe, US Treasury bills, UK, English gilts. It's considered safe. Because the government can't go bankrupt, they can make the laws. But the problem in democracies is that democracies tend to borrow more recklessly, and the governments can change. And if the governments change, you're relying on a different government than agreed to take on the debt to repay it. And they mightn't have the same enthusiasm. Now, generally speaking, governments don't renege. But we see the situation with America and Europe. For the last century, America backed up Europe militarily. Europe could go off and have its big wars, and America carried the finance bill and the death and blood and gore of its young people and its men and all that on the beaches of Normandy. And so, in many ways in finance, the United States being the hegemony, being the principal currency, does the very same. Given Europe a nice little easement there. It's nice to have big Uncle Sam there. That is kind of wearing very thin because the Americans under the Joe Bidens and the Democrats in particular, but even under Trump and under the Republicans, they are addicted to spending. They cannot stop spending. I know marriages where either the woman or the man will tell me my husband or my wife can't stop spending. She has to spend. She can't have €100 in her purse. It has to be spent. And I'm driven out of me tree with this, and there's war in the house every day. Well, with Western governments, there's no one there to tell them you have to ease off. And if they did tell them, they'd laugh at them. And people vote for them because they're supposed to be socialist. And the end result of socialism, as we can see, is to send your kids to get killed in the war against Russia. You see the point? So now, Jamie Dimon has made the point, he's the chairman of Goldman Sachs, that it's running thin. What happens is, when the government reaches the end of its bond and pays its bonds, it rolls them over. So we'll say it owns 6 trillion. In bonds this year, it goes out and issues new bonds and looks for money off the markets and gets it. They pay off the old one, and sometimes the people who have the original bond keep it there in the government and they continue to collect the interest. But unless there's a moderate approach kept on this, it gets out of control. In other words, the scarcity of money, or the fact that money has to be kept scarce, doesn't apply. There is no shortage of money. At the minute in Ireland, the banks are giving people often 3 to 4 credit cards. I know a family, and the woman, they're getting on well, and the woman told me she got rid of all except one each. Everyone in the family, including the lad at school, has one credit card only. The bank wanted them to keep 5. Now, so, as people get the jitters about lending to America and Britain, the price the government has to pay goes up, up, up. If the stock market is doing well, the money will be pulled out of the bonds and put into stocks. Therefore, the government has to compete and drive up the price of their bonds more. I think it's 3.8% is the American rate, and they say that's going up to 4.6 or 7. If it gets to 6%, it's an absolute disaster. That can't be afforded. It could take the money going out to health and defence, or health and justice, or health and some other thing, transport or whatever, to pay the interest on the loan. And when the government can't get money off the markets, they can turn to the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England, and the Bank of England can give them a bailout, but it's by printing money out of nothing. There are YouTube videos on there who don't understand this. They can do it, and they are doing it. They print money out of nothing, and that leads to inflation, and you can see how inflation works. You can see it everywhere. I, a few years ago, spread lime on my land. I think it was 2018 or 2019. It was about 7 years ago. I spread lime. It was £23 a tonne. 23 euros. I tend to use the pound, but we're euros here since 2002. It was 23 euros a tonne. It's now 31 euros a tonne. Okay. Now, so they're printing money to keep the government going. But as they print more money, the inflation goes up. So if a fella has €1,000 now, in 5 years' time, it'll only buy €600 worth. You get my point? So if you had €31 now, it'll only buy €18 worth of what it would have bought back when I put out the lime in 2018, we'll say. So the amount of buying power goes down. Now, as the buying power goes down, the people with the money who buy government bonds, which is, don't get confused about it, that means they lend to the government. They lend. Who lend to the government at, we'll say, 6%, which is a cripple the government. We'll say 5% is just about bearable, but very high. 4% is high, and it's going that way. So they lend to the country, we'll say, at 4%. But if inflation is higher, they're actually losing money. For the €1,000 or dollars they lend now, at 4% interest, inflation could be 6%, which means they're actually only getting back. Is it 80% of the original money? If they lend 1,000 now to the government at 6%, at 5%, right? And there's no inflation, they get 5% return on the money after that period, 5% a year, and then they get their principal back. So if it's over 5 years, they get 25% and the money back after 5 years. But if inflation is bigger than 5%, then they lose because they need 5% to get 5% profit. But if the inflation rate is higher, we say 6%, then that 5% plus the principal will not buy what it would have bought when they loaned it to the government. Do you understand? I haven't my calculator here, so I want to be careful about giving you figures with all the lefties here telling me I can't count. You see, so you need to be getting a rate of interest which is equal to the rate of inflation. But the point about it is, while the government guarantees the interest amounts, they always tell you, we're going to give you 5%, and they stick with that, unless they collapse or go into default. While they guarantee 5%, they make no guarantee as to how much money they will print. And so what Jamie Dimon is warning now, and I hope I've explained that to you fairly well, he's warning is that confidence in the greatest form of cash, of money outside of cash and gold, which is government bonds, is weakening. And what we'll be watching for now is watching for the interest rate on bonds to go up. It's well reported, there's no secret about it, if it goes up. In other words, the government needs money and it can't get it, nobody lends them, so the people lending will demand maybe 7% interest before they'll give it to them. They might get it back sometime. God knows what they'll get back. It's linked to the currency, as I said. So if you loan or you buy bonds in dollar, it's the dollar you get back. You buy them in euros, it's the euro you get back. You buy them in pound sterling, it's the pound sterling you get back. And the trouble there is the ability of the government to pay you back, and to the inflation rate in the interim. Do you understand that? Now, of course, I will be cheering up and down, as far as I'm concerned, the waste and extravagance of the government, their stupid wind energy and all of this solar energy, and their LBGPQ, and their mad to put the war on Russia, means that they're crazy. Only crazy people would be deluded into thinking you can run your industry on the weather. Only crazy people would think that the Europeans can whack the Russians, can beat the Russians. And even if they get America to help them, only crazy people would believe that the Americans and the Europeans would beat the Russians. They can't. So now they're pouring this borrowed money in Germany, Britain and France into military. They've opened a new weapons factory creating big bullets for artillery somewhere in Germany the other day. So all of this borrowed money is going into weapons. Meanwhile, Friedrich Merz, the German Chancellor, has told the people the pensions will have to be cut. So the pensions will get hit. And in fact, they could be badly hit. I don't know how long it will take, and I cannot guarantee. But certainly all the wise economic people are all on the same tune. And I wouldn't be at all surprised in a crunch if the EU wouldn't seize people's savings out of the banks. Someone might have 50,000 savings, we'll take that. And they'll give you old notes, bond notes in return. It happened in America in 1933. They seized people's gold and made it a criminal offence to have gold, or have your own gold stored. And they never got it back. They done the same with Nixon in 1971. The dollar was linked to gold, and you had this, your dollar was as good as gold, and they cut the link, and the dollar value of the dollar went away down since. So do you understand that? It's looking like the idiots like Starmer is in England, Macron and Merz may well be going to the IMF for a bailout. It was widely reported in the news that Britain was going, and nobody rebutted that. And indeed, the Donald, he's a bit of a spendy boy too. He's a bit of a lad like spending. Now, the thing is, if you have a good, vibrant economy, you can get away with a lot of this. In Dickensian Britain, in the Victorian era, they were robbing all the wild goods of the world, all the cotton from slavery, all the corn, everything, raw materials, and processing it in Britain. So you had a sound economy based on theft. That is not the case any longer. Indeed, France up to this year was stealing Burkina Faso and Nigeria's gold, its oil, and its uranium ore. And now they have shut them off. They have managed to beat the French. The French would have loved to go in and guillotine the Africans and kill them, but they can't. And this is the thing to change, to look for. Then you have these sanctions. They have Russia sanctioned till it wasn't working anymore. It was hurting their own economies. Now they want secondary sanctions on India and on China, and good luck with that. They're not going to bow to any of that to try and get them to stop buying Russian oil. Not going to work. So it would be great. I'm a right-wing racist. I'm racist against Irish people who vote for Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin. The devil mend them. They had a chance in the last election to vote for the Irish Freedom Party and vote for good politics, and they refused. They went running out in Cavan. Oh, Niamh Smith, she's a lovely hairdo, lovely hairdo, lovely hairdo. Brendan Smith, huh? They went sneaking in and voted for them all, and Sinn Féin and them all. And the result is we're facing bankruptcy. Bankruptcy, and of course that doesn't mention the migrants. We have to bail out all the migrants in the world and take the whole of the world in here to live off any little bit of social welfare, any little bit of health services, any bit of retirement home stuff, or anything we have accumulated over the years. Folks, if you voted Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael or Sinn Féin, I have no sympathy for you, that you may starve. And it's very likely too that there's going to be a shortage of fuel this year in Europe. I don't know how Ireland will do. It gets it from Norway probably and Britain. But still, you turn off the pipeline coming in from Scotland into Ireland, and I'm telling you, we could see a different face on them. Of course, that won't stop them, no matter what they do. That won't stop them voting for these idiots. They're going to keep doing it. They'll die doing it. And if they could, they'd pass legislation that they can vote a year after they'd be dead. They'd give a will. You could make a will of your vote. That's how they love these parties. Roll it on. The quicker the whole thing comes down round their heads, the better. And I'll be cheering here. If I'm not banned, I'll be laughing at them. That's what people deserve. That's what you got. You had your chance. And don't forget, 40% didn't come out at all, stayed at home. And they're worse. They're every bit as bad to try and change this situation. We'll see you back. I hope you understand it. Jamie Dimon is no small player. No small player, and many others say the very same. That we're heading for trouble. There's a McLeod man there, Alistair McLeod, isn't there? There's a lot of them there. There's Peter Skiff. Well, he's in the business of gold selling, but still, the figures are not there. And they're building more and more solar farms and wind farms, which I've explained to you are net consumers of electricity and driving the cost of electricity for the ordinary people and for businesses out of reach. No more restaurants, no more pubs, no more industry. That's the stuff for them. This is an inevitable consequences of a, what would you call it? Exuberant ignorance. They call it hubris. Oh, I'm a great fella. Oh, just like the fella that gets his week's pay in the pub, in the factory, and he comes down the town and he's just working on a menial job. He gets a few pound and he has a wife and 2 kids at home into the pub and he's buying them all around him. Give that man a drink. Give that man, here, you'll have one. You'll have a wee one there. You'll have a wee one. You'll have a short. You'll have a little jaggy guy. Oh, you will. And isn't he fierce tasting? Isn't he fierce tasting? And wife and family at home. And by the time Monday comes round, he has nothing. And you can't talk to these people. And when you do tell them, you want to stop drinking now, or you want to stop spending and go home to your wife, as they said in the song Irene, you want to stop spending. I might win the lotto. I'm in the lotto today. Could win. This is the ignorance of the world. It's not just the Irish, but the British aren't much better. We'll see you back soon. Comment underneath. Bye bye.